Some other Lions news. We talked about Dre Bly being named the cornerbacks coach.
Love it.
Yeah, I know. And there's been a lot of talk about it. My only concern, and I heard this around town yesterday, it was my initial thought process, too, was it didn't work out very well for him at North Carolina under Mac Brown. It did.
Yeah,
but that is different. That's college.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the one thing in the vortex. Former players. You get former players around former players. How many former players are guys that he played at the highest level against or with or around with respect? It brings a different dog to the fight. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but there's obviously they saw something to give it an opportunity. I love the fact that I was a fan of Dre Bly when he played. So I like the fact that it goes into the whole ex-coaches as assistant coaches and everything else around. So I like the move. And then, like you said, because if it doesn't work out, what's Dan Campbell proven that he'd do? He'll make the hard decision.
Yeah, we'll move on.
So it's not like, oh my God, I got this guy here and then we'll never get rid of him. It's just sort of going to be, hanging on like a fungus, right? No.
Yeah. And you know what, D-Mac? That showed me a lot about Dan Campbell. And you can spin that if you want to say, yeah, I mean, that's kind of your first layer. Because you know how this stuff works, right, in the coaching world and professional sports. If you are a coach, the first step is when things aren't going well, you have to gas somebody. There's got to be a pound of flesh.
Well, it doesn't matter
talk about
as
that.
long as you're, and people can say it doesn't matter if you use the term scapegoat or whoever, but it doesn't matter as long as the decision that you make, right, changes things. Both times in both seasons that Dan Campbell's been the head coach, right, he's got rid of his one offensive coordinator, made the change, and it made a difference. Last year, he got rid of his quarterbacks coach, and it made a difference.
Right.
So he's making the right decisions and putting the team first. That's why if none of these guys work out, they've proven to me, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, that they're willing to move on from it. And they've also shown me that, hey, when they break down a situation, they address it, they're diagnosing the right problem. They're not doing something to create two other problems. They're plugging that hole right there and moving forward and having progress from there.
And for me, D-Mac, it showed me something about him because my number one problem with coaches in today's day and age, you see this a little more in college than you do in the pros, but whatever, it's the ego, right? You've always heard me talk about the ego of I was right with these choices. Sometimes, man, and whether it's because you're feeling the pressure and you got to make the move or because you think the move is what's necessary, either way, he made the move.
Right.
And you can still talk if you want to question his in-game management and stuff like that. Like if that's your reservation, I can't kill you on that. That's fine. But where he passed the first test for me was when he got rid of a guy he brought in, because coaches never want to do that, but he did it.
Right.
That shows a lot.
So is that the one thing, like you said that, because in order to be successful, I think that what I've run across is that the people are that are most successful in this world are extremely confident in their ability to the point of where it may seem cocky or arrogant to some, but it's not, because there's a humbleness to it and admit when they are wrong. The best leaders are be able to diagnose, okay, yeah, I messed up. Now I'm going to change that. And aren't afraid to get behind it. Doesn't look as a weakness. It's actually a strength.
Yeah. One thing Brandon Katz and I do agree on here today, the Bears will be strong moving forward. They will be better next year. They won't be second in the division, though. And we've talked about this a lot.
I'm not worried about them next year as much as I am in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's the whole division. It's not like the window for next year, I think, is that the storm sort of cleared and it's set up for you with every resource that you have, what you've built to this point, the trajectory that you have been headed on, especially the end of the season. This is the season, because Chicago can't regroup even though they have a lot of money in this next year, but they'll be there in 2 years. We're going to fight them, I suspect, more for the division championships in the next 5 years than we will against Minnesota or Green Bay.
But D-Mac, I will say this. It's something where I'm gonna pull up the lines real quick for the division next year, because I will say that the Bears they don't just have a lot of money, they have an obscene amount of money in relation to the rest.
16 more million, don't they have like 140 or something, or 130?
Yeah, I mean like it's absolutely crazy.
In a place where they can make a big deal, but Neil, they're not going to all change over in 1 year. It's going to take a couple years to put things in motion, isn't it?
No, or depending on how they make it rain in the club. You know what I'm saying? They could go home with somebody.
But here's the dangerous thing, right? Here's the caveat, because Chicago is sitting with the first pick overall right now, which you would expect with all the resources and stuff, because they have their quarterback, and the quarterback high is that they're going to, in the Neil Rule world, they're going to move that back and make that into boom, 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 more assets, more players, right?
Right.
That's what I'm interested to see, is how they come out of the draft with what they do with the first overall pick, and how that helps move their team forward. I don't think that they're going to be there or as good, but you're going to see the signs of it building to what they want to be next year. And then it's in the year after. But hopefully we can take this year to get our wheels rolling, and then it'll be harder for them to catch up.